With this week's update on Wednesday, NEX is officially going to be coming into Old School, and it's almost 10 years to the day it originally joined RuneScape 2. And in today's video, I'm going to tell you everything you need to know before it does release this week. First up, we're going to go over how to get there. I just climbed down the rope in the God Wars dungeon, and we're going to head straight south towards where Arma is. And just left of where the Armadillo grapple area is, you're going to see a frozen door. And in order to access this frozen door, you will need to complete the frozen door mini quest, which is essentially just killing all 4 of these God War dungeon bosses and getting the key component from each of them. And once you get all 4 pieces of the key, you basically just combine it together and you then have access to this door. You can actually wait in this area with all of your gear equipped pre-launch, because as you can tell, this door will not unlock until January 5th. But now that we've covered getting there, there is one final step we have to pass before we can ultimately enter the boss fight, and that is getting the kill count. Just like traditional God Wars dungeon bosses, kill count will be a factor in the new NEX boss, and once NEX launches, you'll be able to enter what is going to be called the Ancient Prison, which is this room located just to the left of me over here. And by killing any of the monsters within this room, you'll be able to get 40 essence, or basically 40 kill count, which is going to make you eligible to enter the next boss fight. If I do pull up the minimap just like the original NEX, there is a little banking area after you get your kill count. So if you don't have all of the gear necessary, do not worry, because there is a little pause area that you can optimize your inventory before you head into the boss room. And one more thing to note before we move on, you can use ecumenical keys to bypass this 40 kill count just like any of the other God Wars bosses. So with that, I'm going to put a big emphasis on this clip right here. There is still a couple days until the official launch of NEX, so you have 2 days to not only complete the Frozen Door mini quest prior to release, but also stock up some ecumenical keys so you don't have to spend time getting kill count on day of launch. Those are 2 things you can knock out ahead of time, so if you have the time to do that, I would definitely recommend it if you want to get in on all of the action as soon as you can on release. In addition to that, they've also stated that some of these monsters give more essence than others, so technically there could be a more efficient way of getting your kill count completed, barring you do have the Slayer level to kill all of the 3 different types of spiritual creatures. We don't know what those essence levels are going to be just yet, but odds are it either plays into their combat level or their Slayer requirement in order to kill them. And depending on which tier of the combat achievements you have completed, this essence requirement could be below 40 just like it does in the God Wars dungeon. But now moving on to what we know about the boss fight, and that is honestly very little. But also at the same time we know a lot, because they have stated the boss fight is very similar to what it was in the original NEX, but with a few tweaks to make it better fit Old School. Apart from that though, up to 80 players can take on NEX within one encounter, and the boss's drops are going to work very similar to that of Nightmare, which means that all contributing players technically have a chance of obtaining a unique on any given kill, but the chance greatly scales with your individual contribution, and with a slight bonus chance if you do get the MVP. Just like Nightmare, the more damage you do, the better basic loot you will receive, and the better chance of obtaining a unique you have. Now let's move on to the rewards that are really going to shake up the Old School endgame. And first up we have the new best in slot melee armor being Torva. And I'll post the link to this blog down in the description below if you do want to check it out and look at all of these stats in a little bit more detail. But overall, Torva is now going to be the new best in slot melee strength armor within the game. But not only are we getting new Torva armor, but they're also putting in some mechanics to help make sure that the best in slot armor below it in bandos doesn't go completely unviable. And the way this works is Torva will not be dropped in itself basically just as Torva as it was in the original NEX, but it will drop pieces of the set that are broken and unequipable, and in order to make them usable, you will need to break down pieces of Bando's armor and use these components onto the broken Torva in order to make it viable. As you can see here, the Bando's chest plate will break down into 3 components and the tassets will break into 2. And in order to repair the Torva, you'll need 1 for the helmet, 2 for the chest, and 2 for the plate legs. Therefore, a set of full bandos will perfectly break into a set of full Torva. But it's also important to note that the broken Torva, bandos components, and the repaired Torva are all tradable. Therefore, if you do get the broken Torva and you don't have the 90 smithing requirement to attach the components, you can just outright sell the broken version. And another thing to note, there is an 80 defense requirement in order to equip Torva. Moving on, we have the Zaryte Vambraces. And these have an 80 range and 45 defense requirement, and they will be the new best in slot range gloves, providing an 18 plus attack bonus with a 2 range strength, alongside 1 prayer. All around just very good in terms of the glove spot for the ranging attack style. And next up, we probably have my favorite, if not second favorite item to Torva, and that is the new Zaryte Crossbow. Honestly, I'm a big fan that they changed the original preposition of the multi-target Zaryte bow. And now in its spot, after some solid feedback, we're going to be getting the new best in slot crossbow, requiring 80 range to equip. And for the first time ever in old school, a crossbow is going to be providing some defense bonus. The Zaryte crossbow is also going to be having a special attack that will require 75% of your special attack energy, but it will trigger a guaranteed bolt effect if you do succeed at hitting the target. And on top of the special attack, there is also a special passive effect, and this makes it enhance all bolt effects by 10%. A good example of this is, say you're attacking Corporal Beast and you do use your special attack, barring you do have a successful hit instead of a 0, you would then do a new capped total damage of 110 rather than the original 100 we had prior. On top of that, the Zaryte crossbow is also going to drop in broken form similar to Torva, except this time around, in order to make the Zaryte crossbow usable, you will need to attach an Armadillo crossbow and 250 Nihil shards. And for our final big equipment drop from NEX, we have the Ancient Godsword. The Ancient Godsword will be very similar to the others in the fact that it will be dropped as a hilt, and in order to make it, all you have to do is attach the same old Godsword blade, and there you have it. But apart from that, now let's talk about what makes a Godsword so special, and that is its special attack. The Ancient Godsword special attack will consume 50% of your special attack energy, but with it comes doubled accuracy, 10% extra damage, and once you've damaged the enemy, an 8-tick cycle timer starts, meaning that person has 4.8 seconds to get outside of 5 tiles away from you, and if they do not, they'll be hit an additional 25 damage. For example, say I go ahead and hit a player, even if they run 50 tiles away, assuming that I'm always within 5 tiles of them, they will be hit the 25 damage. And on top of them being hit the 25 damage, you will be healed for the exact same. Definitely could see this Godsword being very effective at a ton of different places, but with all of the big uniques out of the way, now let's go ahead and cover some of the smaller ones. First up is the Blood Essence, and this is going to be a semi-rare item dropped by both NEX and various monsters within the Ancient Prison. It is both tradable and stackable, and a player can activate a Blood Essence, which would then toggle in active state. And when then crafting blood runes, they'll have a 50% chance to create extra runes. Each blood essence would have 1,000 charges, meaning it could craft an additional 1,000 runes. But it is important to know you can only have one active blood essence at a time, and once activated, it will become untradeable. And moving on, we have the Nihil shards, and these are consumables dropped by all foes within the Ancient Prison, including NEX. They can be crushed into Nihil dust, which will be the new secondary for the new Ancient Brew Potion. And the Ancient Brew Potion is essentially the Nihil Dust plus the Dwarf Weed Potion, requiring 85 herb lore and giving 190 XP. And once drank, it will boost your magic by 5% plus 2, your prayer by 10% plus 2, and also the potential to boost up to 5% over your base prayer level. However, it also drains your attack strength and defense by 10% plus 2. I'm definitely interested to see what niche scenarios this potion is going to be used in. But now moving on to our final two, we have the Ecumenical Key Shards and the Ceremonial Robes. The ceremonial robes will consist of a mask, top, legs, gloves, and boots. They'll have the same exact stats as monk robes, and they will be added to the collection log. But if you are familiar with the original NEX, wearing this set of ceremonial robes will no longer allow you to bypass the essence count required to take on NEX herself. And then finally, to round out the rewards, we have the brand new ecumenical key shards. And once you gather 50 of these shards, you can combine them to create one ecumenical key. Do note though, if you do already have the cap of keys, once you have 50, you cannot create it and get an additional key in your bank. But you can store these 50 shards in your bank and essentially have an extra key already ready to go. But with that, that is everything you need to know before NEX is released this week. If you guys did enjoy the video or found it helpful, consider hitting that like button. It massively helps me out. And if you're not already and you enjoy the videos, also subscribe to the channel. And I'll catch you guys in just a couple days with the next release.